Hey, what's up, guys? We're back. We're going to be doing another UFC breakdown and predictions video this week. It's for UFC Sandhagen versus Song, and it's a really awesome fight card. I actually am looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of banger fights, and the main event is going to be amazing. So definitely it's going to be must-see TV on Saturday, but we're coming off a nice night yesterday on the Contender Series. We won some money there. We won over 3 units. So if you want to get the last week Contender Series, I know next week there's actually quite a few events going on. There's some Bellator and all that, so you want to get access to that, you definitely should check out the Patreon. I already have 6 bets for this card as well for Sandhagen versus Song. So if you want access and be able to see those 6 bets and make some money, then definitely go over there and check it out. And also, I think there's some LFA this weekend, so that's another thing that I might put on here. But yeah, man, besides that, we're going to get right into this video here with this first fight tonight. We got Nicholas Moda taking on Cameron Van Camp. And both these guys are actually supposed to fight each other a while back. I can't remember exactly when. I think maybe in September of last year, but the fight was scrapped, and since then both of them actually did make their UFC debuts. They both got knocked out, and neither fighter had an easy task though. Cameron Van Camp, he went up a weight class. He fought Andre Fiallo, who's a good striker, and Nicholas Modi took on the winningest fighter in UFC history, and Jim Miller. And this fight's a chance for one of them to kind of show their worth, get in the win column, and it's probably going to be a fun, violent fight. Both guys are finishers, so it should be a good one. And Nicholas Moda, he is more explosive. He's a power puncher. He has fast hands. He has nice 1-2s. He has good left hooks. He'll mix the target of his hooks as well, so he likes to go to the body and then come up to the head. And he has good pressure. He will try to back guys up, get him against the cage, and then flurry on him, explode in with his blitzes. And obviously he's a powerful, explosive guy. Like I said, he's fast. He closes distance really fast. His head kicks are okay. He does tend to telegraph his kicks a little bit, but he has powerful head kicks when he can land them. And his defense is not good. He has limited head movement. He drops his hands. He's been knocked out 3 times. I don't think he has the best chin. And I haven't seen a lot of grappling from Moda, but I don't think he has the best takedown defense. He tends to overextend. He explodes in a lot. He gives fighters opportunities to duck under and take him down. And his, ability to get back up, I haven't really seen that. I haven't really seen him on his back too much. But I think in this fight, Van Camp would be smart to mix it up, use some of that wrestling, that grappling that he has in his back pocket. Moda has been submitted twice, and Moda also has bad cardio. So I think even if Moda's defending the takedowns or Van Camp isn't that effective with the grappling, even if he can take him down, I think it will slow down Moda as well. And I think that, Moda will maybe not really like to grapple with a guy that's bigger than him like Van Camp. And Moda, he definitely is the best in the first round. So getting out of that first round is another thing that I think Van Camp should be looking to do. Cameron Van Camp, his first battle, though, is going to be with the scale. He hasn't made 155 pounds since 2017. Definitely a big guy for the weight, so he's going to have to show that he can go down there and make weight safely, which he has done in the past. But he's going to have a 5-inch height advantage, 4-inch reach advantage in this fight. And he's a very fun guy to watch. He wants to brawl with guys and then look to get the takedowns, and he has a strong submission game. And you could tell that he's worked and improved his striking. He uses his length a lot better. He used to brawl way more than he does now. And at 155 pounds, I think he's going to be better suited to use the style that he's trying now against shorter opponents. He throws nice 1-2s, good counter 2s. He has good hooks, good uppercuts on the inside. And he's an explosive guy in his own right. He'll throw some nice Superman punches, flying knees. And his knees are dangerous. He throws, knees mid-combination. And he has no issues still, even though he doesn't brawl as much. He still will bring that old Van Camp out and brawl in the pocket. And it's getting better with his kicking game. He has nice leg kicks, good front kicks to the body. He's a pretty good stance switcher, and he can throw kicks from both legs. Good foot speed, good hand speed. And he's tough. He throws a lot of volume. He's willing to take a shot to give a shot. But he is very open to being hit. He's been knocked out 3 times his last fight. He was actually doing a good job. He was landing some clean shots. He hurt Andre Fiallo, actually, with a big counter in an exchange, and that was actually his demise. He got way too over-aggressive after that. He started walking him down, and Fiallo's a good counter striker, man. He found that counter hook right on the button, knocked out Van Camp, and, Van Camp in this fight, he has to be way more composed. Maybe not way more composed, but he just has to be, better with his fight IQ. If he hurts him, don't start chasing and go for the finish. Be smart and I also think that using the grappling is another thing that he's going to want to do. He wants to punch his way into the clinch in this one, use his length. He's going to have that big height advantage, kind of lean on Mota, get him tired. And when he can get on top, he has a really nice submission game. He has really good front chokes. He has good back takes, good rear naked chokes. And I think he has the cardio edge. So I feel like if he can get into those later rounds, he's going to have the advantage. I like this fight a lot. They were supposed to fight earlier, and I was leaning more towards the Mota side. But after seeing Van Kamp's last performance, even though he got knocked out early, I do think that he's making strides. And I do like him more at 155. And I think if he could stay technical, stick and move on the outside, use that length, I think he could do well on the feet, land some big shots, maybe even get Mota out of there. Mota's a guy that, like I said, I don't really trust his chin. He just got knocked out by Jim Miller. And I think that Van Kamp has the edge in the grappling. If he can get a couple takedowns, I think he could wear on Mota's gas tank, and he definitely has the cardio edge. He's a lot bigger guy. For Mota to win, he's going to have to try to get Van Kamp back into that old style of fighting that he used to do and get him into a brawl, get him to extend the combinations, look to counter with that big, clean hook, and just get inside and work those 2-3s, because that's kind of what Mota's going to want to try to do. And I don't think Mota has crazy knockout power or anything, but if he lands clean shots cumulatively, he can definitely put out Van Kamp. And Van Kamp is going to have a full training camp for this one. I think he's going to be prepared to follow a game plan. His last fight, he was doing good until he hurt Fiallo, got overconfident. If he stays technical and long against Mota, I think he'll land clean shots. It'll be hard for Mota to find due to the length advantage. If Mota gets impatient or over-aggressive, he could walk onto a big shot, and he could also be taken down. And I think, I like the cardio edge and size edge that Van Kamp has. I think he has more ways to win. As long as he doesn't brawl with Mota and get clipped and knocked out early, I think he will find the finish himself. If he just stays long, keeps it technical, I think he could find the knockout or hurt Mota and get the submission. So I'm going to go with Cameron Van Kamp to pull the upset, and I'll say he gets a second round KO TKO in this fight. And this next fight, I really like this fight. It's Javid Basharat. He's going to be taking on Cody Gravely, and we just saw Javid's brother, Farid Basharat, earn a contract last night on the Contender Series. He looked really slick. And both these guys are super good. They're, right on the outside of the top 15 at 135 pounds because, 135 pounds is a shark tank. But Tony Gravely's 4-2 at 6 UFC fights. He's won 2 in a row. His last fight, he got a nice early knockout finish. And he's actually won 4 of his last 5 fights in the UFC. So a win over Basharat will probably get him a top 10, top 15 opponent next. And Javid Basharat, he had a really good UFC debut. He ended up moving his record to 12-0, and he beat Trevin Jones, who's an underrated fighter in the weight class, announced himself as a player in the division. Most of the guys that Basharat has faced have not been on the level of Tony Gravely, but his last couple fights, he took that step up, and he proved he could compete at this level. For Basharat, this is the wrestler test for him, but he's been fighting or traded over the United States more recently at Extreme Couture, and I think that's going to help him a lot. He did trade in the UK for a long time, and maybe if he was still over there, I would lean more towards Gravely being able to hit the takedowns and be able to out-grapple him. But he can prove that he can stuff the takedowns against a wrestler at the level of Gravely or submit him off of his back. That would be a big statement because on the feet, Basharat has the goods to compete with almost anyone. He's super fast, dynamic. He's very creative. He constantly switches stances. He maintains distance very well. In this fight, I think Javid is going to want to be on the back foot early, look to pull Gravely into his shots, and then when he starts to see Gravely, the way that he's setting up his takedowns, the way that he's setting up the overhands, and just the timing that Gravely has, then he can start to pressure and, be more effective. And he's the longer fighter. He has more weapons. I think he's at his best when he's sticking and moving, but he's also good at pressuring, being in and out. And I think with Gravely's super fast, very good at mixing up the overhands and the level changes, kind of confusing you where he'll feint the level change, throw a big overhand, or feint the overhand and then hit you with a big double leg takedown or big single leg. And it's really hard to figure out what Gravely's going to do because he's also super fast. And I think Basharat, who stands tall, could be susceptible to being taken down or getting clipped with a big shot. He does hold his hands low, he floats his chin a little bit, and Gravely also has long arms. Most of the opponents that Javid fights, he has the length advantage, the height advantage. He does have a 4-inch height advantage, but they're going to be even in the reach at 69 inches here. So, but Basharat, he's going to be moving, and he has elite cardio. Him and his brother, and so far his takedown defense has been really good against all the opponents that he's faced so far. I do think that Tony Gravely is the best wrestler by a long shot that he's ever fought, but he's been able to easily defend the takedowns and do really well against grapplers. And Gravely does have a tendency to get tired. When Gravely slows down, I think Basharat's going to start to open up more. And if the fight stays standing, he's going to have way more tools. He's too slick, and I just think he'll start to really pick apart Tony Gravely. But he can grapple himself as well, Basharat, and I wouldn't rule out a submission win for him either. He doesn't look to wrestle offensively, but what Basharat does do is pressure, make fighters shooting on him, and from there he has really nice front chokes. He has a couple guillotines, a couple darces. He is also dangerous from top position when he gets there. He has a good rear naked choke. And Tony Gravely, I mean, he definitely is one of the best wrestlers in the weight. He has tremendous chain wrestling. He's super fast, super strong. In top position, he's a hammer. He has heavy ground and pound. He transitions really well. Super active, very aggressive guy. He is susceptible to being submitted, and he can make some mistakes on the ground, but he has gotten better with the submission defense, and a lot of that, in my opinion, has to do with cardio. And he's gotten a lot better since getting to the UFC, moving over to ATT, being better conditioned, and being able to keep the pace and put it on guys. But I just think Basharat has more ways to win this fight, and I think that he's likely going to find a finish. I think it's definitely a stiff opponent that if he can't stop the takedowns against or gets clipped with a heavy shot early, he could lose. But I think if the fight starts to, play out, and Basharat, I think, will kind of be able to get Gravely tired and have the better stand-up, land clean shots, and I think he'll hurt Gravely, get him to panic shoot, and then catch him with a front choke. So I'm actually going to go with Basharat by submission in this one, and I think that it's going to be a fun fight, and if it goes to decision, Gravely could be live just by controlling and holding Basharat down, but I think Basharat's too skilled, and I think he'll be able to get the job done. In this next fight, we got an all-action fight, and it's a grappler versus striker matchup. Originally, this was going to be Melissa Gatto versus Gillian Robertson, which was more of a grappler versus grappler fight, but now it's a much different fight. We got the injection of chaos that is Mariya Agapova coming in here, and both girls are coming off of losses, but they've established themselves as fun fighters to watch and finishers. Mariya Agapova, she's going to want to keep this fight on the feet, knock Robertson out, and Robertson's going to be trying to get the fight to the ground and get that choke. And I think it's almost a guaranteed finish in this fight for whoever wins. It's going to be fun to watch. And both these girls have sparred, trained together at American Top Team a few years ago. So there's some familiarity there. And I think that type of atmosphere in the gym, Robertson probably dominated. Agapova's style is predicated a lot on her presence, power. And in the gym, she's not going to be 100% full speed. And in the grappling realm, if Robertson gets it to the mat, even in the fight or in the gym, I think she's probably super dominant. So I still largely believe that Robertson will be dominant if she can get on top, but in a real fight, Agapova is going to make her walk through more hellfire to get there. And Gillian Robertson's game is very simple. She wants to get the fight to the ground, and she has a good single leg. She's willing to pull guard, then use her half guard sweeps to get on top. Her double leg is nice, and she's getting a lot better with her timing on it. And if she can get fighters to the cage, she has pretty good chain wrestling. Definitely has a lot of ways to get the fight to the ground, and she'll also pull guard. She is also willing to attack with submissions from full guard when she gets there. She has fast armbar setup. She has pretty good leg locks. And in top position, she's super aggressive. Her main objective is to get to the back. But she has good top control, really good ground and pound. She has been able to lock in a lot of rear naked chokes in her career and in the UFC. As far as stand-up goes, I feel like, Robertson, she's gotten a little bit better. She does have good footwork, and she does a good job using feints and some kicks to draw her opponents out, then time the takedowns, but she's getting more comfortable with her hand. She's getting a little bit better at staying in the pocket and working in the exchanges. She's getting a little bit better at mixing up the target and attacking all parts of the body, and I would say her striking looked better than ever in her last fight against J.J. Aldrich. In this one, she's going to be fighting a girl that's going to be throwing heat, and it's going to be interesting to see if Robertson is quite as comfortable in real chaotic fight, because I don't know if she's gonna be, but Robertson, she's started to get a lot better with the striking. She's even started to blend her striking and grappling together better, where she's if she misses a takedown, she'll throw some punches then reshoot, which is kind of another wrinkle she's added. And she's never going to be a world-class striker, but if she can get her footwork, movement, and defense more on point, along with just the composure on the feet, that's going to go a long way. And cardio-wise, I think her cardio was better in her last fight than previous fights. And I feel like teaming up with the Goat Shed. Whereas I feel for a while there when she was losing a lot of her fights, she was only working with Dean Thomas, and I don't think they had like an established gym after she left American Top Team. So now that she's with the Goat Shed, I think she's going to be in better shape and probably be a little bit sharper on fight night. But Mariya Agapova, her opponent, is a great athlete, fast hands, fast feet. And when she's at range, she's really good. She'll pull fighters into power counters. If you go and watch her fight with Sabina Mazo, that's probably the best version of Mariya Agapova we've seen. She really likes the 3-2s and the 2-3s. She has long arms and power in both hands. And she's pretty good at throwing that 1-2 and in with the right hook. She'll mix to the body. In her fight with Sabina Mazo, she landed a nice right hook to the body to a left hook to the head that dropped Mazo. And with her being southpaw, she has real nice kicks with that left leg. She'll throw them fast to the body, to the head. And southpaw gives her a little bit of a different dynamic. And she's very explosive. She can blitz in. She closes distance really quickly. And she's a finisher. She's a scary fighter to face. Defensively, she still has some problems with pressure. She could sometimes cross her feet and have a little bit of wonky footwork. And she can get frozen up a little bit against wrestlers, be a little bit too worried about the takedowns and just back up, be too defensive. And in this fight, she has to, get her footwork going, be on point, stay technically composed, not care as much about the wrestling of Robertson, and just know that if you stay long, keep that distance, don't overextend, you're going to be tough to be taken down because you're faster, longer, and more powerful. And if Agapova can start connecting with heat on Robertson, Robertson has been known to not like getting hit too much. She can get big reactions, and Agapova would have the chance to overwhelm her, I believe, if she starts to connect with some big punches. And she has the speed advantage, she has the 5-inch reach advantage, so she's going to have to rely on that heavily in this fight because if it goes to the ground, she's going to be in trouble. She's had mixed results against grapplers. She was able to take out Na Liang and Alexa Connors, but most of the time Agapova has struggled against a wrestler style, and she got grinded up by Tracy Cortez on the Contender Series. She ended up losing a ground and pound against Shayna Dobson, and Dobson isn't even a grappler. I think that was more, just inexperience and cardio that lost Agapova that fight. But her last fight with Marina Moroz, it was a bit of a grudge match, but she got outclassed on the ground. She got taken down in the first round, beaten up. She showed a little bit more resistance in the first round. She, was able to defend some takedowns early, and she actually even was able to work back up to her feet and take the back of Moroz for a brief period of time. But in the second round, she seemed very fatigued. You could tell her strikes were coming a lot slower, and she got taken down way easier. She gave her back and was submitted. And that's one thing that Agapova has a lot of issues with, is she tends to give her back very easily. And against a girl like Gillian Robertson, that's a big issue because she's one of the best back takers and rear naked choke artists in the division. And I do know that Agapova has put in a lot of work on her wrestling, on her grappling in the last 6 months, but it's still a white belt versus a black belt if the fight hits the mat. On the feet, the difference will be just as wide, and Agapova is one of the more dangerous strikers in the weight class, one of the few fighters with real knockout power. But Gillian Robertson, she's leveled up her striking. Her last fight, even though it was a loss, it was short notice, and I think the improvements were pretty visible. And like I said, I like the fact that she teamed up with Goat Shed MMA. I don't know if a lot of people know about the Goat Shed, but they have a lot of good up-and-coming young fighters. So I think you'll start seeing them more in the UFC and things like that. And I feel like Mariya Agapova, she's going to have to show some big improvements unless she can get an early finish to beat a high-level grappler like Robertson. Robertson's a beast on the ground, and I just feel like if she ends up on her back, she's going to give her back and get submitted with a rear naked choke. One thing, though, is Agapova, I do think is live also for a submission, and probably the odds are real crazy because Agapova is really good at, once she hurts you, she'll just jump on the back and snatch the neck and get that rear naked choke, and she's able to do it. She did it in her last 3 victories. So that's something that I think could potentially happen if she hurts Robertson. You can get a real juicy price tag for that. But, if the UFC match made Agapova better, let her build up her confidence and momentum, I think she could be a real marketable fighter. She, has a lot of good things. She's a good talker and she's fun to watch in the cage, but that's just not how her career has gone. She's had some issues with the law, with the gyms that she's went to, and I feel like it's probably been hard for her to transition from Kazakhstan to the U.S., and I think that as long as she surrounds herself with good people and stays in the gym, she could be a future contender. But she's gonna have to take some lumps before she gets there. And I've seen, you know, I just feel like in this fight, it's gonna be a tough style. I think that it could go either way because Agapova has that power, and that's always gonna let her be in a fight. But I think Robertson is just a little bit more experienced, a little bit more of a pro at this point. I think she's going to be able to survive the stand-up or at least be semi-competitive because of the takedown threat. And once the fight gets to the ground, I think that Gillian's going to take the back and get the rear naked choke. So I'm going to go with Gillian Robertson to get the finish in this one. And I just feel as if she only needs one takedown to get the win. And I think she's going to be able to get that. So I'm going to go with Robertson by submission. With this next one, you got the debut of Daniel Zellhuber. And man, I mean, Mexico's been coming strong lately, and this is another fighter trying to carry the flag. He's a young guy, he's 23, already 12-0, and in his last fight, he picked up a really good win over Lucas Almeida, who since went on to debut in the UFC and win in a really fun back-and-forth fight. The level of competition overall for Zellhuber has not been great, but his last fight, he showed that he's ready for at least, the bottom end of the UFC. But this is another test for him because he's facing a guy with good wrestling skills, and it's going to be a different type of fight. But Zellhuber is an impressive guy. I mean, he recently has gone over and started training with Tiger Muay Thai, and he's worked on his striking over there. And he's a striker at heart. He's super long range. He has some great speed and reflexes, and he has fast leg kicks. He throws good front kicks, round kicks to the body, to the head. His kicks are really nice. He throws all kinds of kicks with both legs. He has really good dexterity, good high kicks, good jab, good left hook. His straight right hand is also pretty nice, and his defense still needs to improve quite a bit. I mean, he leaves his chin out there a little bit and can get hit with some big shots. He really got beat up pretty bad in the first round against Lucas Almeida before he found his range and started to take over the striking realm. But he is decent at rolling with shots, slipping shots and returning, but definitely I think he takes too much punishment at this point. He needs to get better with his defense. His 77-inch reach and just his length helps him get out of a lot of situations because he can kind of just pull back out of the way, but eventually that's not going to work. But as the fight gets going, he gets better. He gets his reads. He'll start to get more aggressive, put better hand combos together, not get hit as much. And Zellhuber, he doesn't have that one-punch power, but he has the volume to put guys away. And his defense still needs to improve, like I said, but right now he's young. And, his youthfulness allows him to eat those shots and be undeterred. He pushes a high pace. He throws a lot of volume. In his fight with Lucas Almeida, who's another guy that I feel like is a bomber that throws high volume with, really good cardio, he broke him. I mean, early in the fight, Lucas Almeida was dominating Zellhuber, but once Zellhuber found his, shots and started to get going, he just melted him with the cardio, started to mix in the takedowns, and started to look pretty good. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He has decent judo takedowns, and in his fight with Lucas Almeida, he struggled with the boxing. He changed the game plan up, was starting to wrestle a little bit, hit several takedowns against the cage, and that was able to get Lucas Almeida tired, and then he started doing better in the striking. And this is his first real test against a wrestler, though. I did see a fight when he fought John Franco Cortez, and he did get held down for almost the entirety of round 2 after, getting a kick caught and getting taken down off of that. But I just don't really know. I mean, I don't know too much about Zellhuber's wrestling defense, how he is off of his back, but being a black belt, being super long, I feel like he's going to be fairly tough to take down. He's athletic and probably be hard to hold down. He has really good cardio, and he's got that Mexican heart and toughness, so he's an interesting fighter to keep your eye on. But Trey Ogden, he debuted in the UFC earlier this year, and he lost a split decision. But he's a guy who was very experienced before even getting into the UFC. He had already had 18 fights. He had beaten guys like JJ Okonovich, TJ Brown, Lucas Clay. And he's 32 years old now, so he has to get the win here. I feel like this is a must-win. He's the more experienced man. He's a veteran at this point. And if he loses to a guy like Daniel Zellhuber, there's not really a spot for him in the 55-pound division, if you ask me. But Trey Ogden, he's a good grappler. He has solid timing on the takedowns, good submission game. 11 of his wins have been submissions. On the feet, he's pretty technical, but he's just not really dangerous. He has good footwork movement. He'll throw a lot of feints. He has good leg kicks. He has a good jab, pretty good left hook. He'll shoot that straight right to the body, to the head. He has decent hand speed, but he doesn't have great foot speed. He's very plotty, and he kind of just pushes his shots out there. He doesn't really put a lot of power on them, so he relies more on slickness and then kind of baiting guys to chase him and finding the takedowns. I think the kicks of Zellhuber are going to give him big issues because Ogden likes to kind of plot inside, and I think Zellhuber, with his length, his speed, can kick and move. And as long as he just sets the kicks up fairly well and not get taken down off him, they could be effective for him. And on the feet, I find it hard to believe that Ogden is going to be able to be competitive. He's going to be at a big reach and speed disadvantage. He doesn't have as many weapons or throw as much volume as Zellhuber. Zellhuber is also just a cleaner striker. Early on, Ogden may be able to, pressure and land some big punches because Zellhuber is a slow starter and floats his chin out there, but I don't think he has the power to hurt him, and I don't think that he's going to be able to, once Zellhuber gets his reads and everything, be able to compete on the feet. But Ogden, uses his footwork, his movement that I said is pretty good to get fighters to chase him, and then he has good timing with his double leg, and he has good ground and pound. Ultimately, wants to get to the back and try to get that rear naked choke. He's pretty heavy on top, methodical. Once he gets into top position, it's pretty difficult to get back up to your feet. In his fight with Jordan Levitt, he showed a pretty good guillotine, even though he didn't finish it. But I think he's a bit up against it here. He's going to have to rely on the mistakes of Zellhuber to have a chance to win. If you can get Zellhuber to overextend and get the fight to the ground, then you could dominate. I think that he'll probably be able to control Zellhuber. I don't think a submission is likely, but I think that he could probably win a round or bank a round or two if he can get on top. Ogden has good cardio, but I think it's offset by the equally good cardio of Zellhuber. And his experience is the only advantage he can really lean on, along with just being a tough guy. I think Zellhuber should win this fight. He's going to keep the range, then some nice kicks, straight shots. Ogden, I think he's going to slow down as he gets beat up, and I think Zellhuber is going to be more active and start looking for that finish in the later rounds. Ogden, I think he has to get it to the ground, and I just don't think he has the explosive to get inside. I feel like Zellhuber's either going to get a late finish, like in the third round, or win a comprehensive decision. So I'm going to go with Zellhuber to get the job done in this one and be victorious in his UFC debut. And up next here, we have another female fight between Loma Lookboonmee and Denise Gomes. And Loma Lookboonmee, I still believe is the only fighter from Thailand that's ever fought in the UFC. I think they did sign another guy now that from the Contender Series, but he hasn't made his debut yet. But Loma, this is going to be her 6th UFC appearance, and she's been up and down so far, 3-2. Her 2 losses have been against good fighters. She lost to Angela Hill and Lupita Godinez, and she's gotten some good wins too. She beat Jinyu Frey, she beat Sam Hughes, and just 3 weeks after winning in a really fun back-and-forth fight on the Contender Series, Denise Gomes is back. She's stepping in the cage for a UFC debut, and she's a hard hitter. She's a Brazilian who has won 6 in a row after starting her career 0-1, so she definitely is someone that has the momentum right now. But I think this is a fight where Loma Lookboonmee is going to show her full MMA game and show that she's really evolving here, because from what I'm seeing, I mean, Denise Gomes is a brawler. She's very durable. She comes forward. She pressures and has heavy hands, good cross, good hook combos. She isn't the best with her kicking game, but she'll throw some heavy head kicks, body kicks, and she, I believe, has won some world championships in kickboxing and things like that, because she's just a brute. She comes forward. She has power. She did get dropped twice by Milana Dudieva, and her defense is not good. And I definitely think that Loma could, move, use that footwork and the big speed advantage, and just throw the straight shots, throw big kicks, and be effective, lighting up Gomez. But the thing about Loma, she sometimes does struggle against girls that close the distance on her and get in that boxing range and rough it up. She's a little bit smaller for the weight. In this fight, she's actually going to be pretty similar size to her opponent, but she usually struggles against girls that could press her and force her in a boxing range. With those Muay Thai fighters, they don't really tend to have a lot of head movement. But where I'm talking about, where I think we're going to see the progression of Loma's game, is I think she's going to grapple in this one. I think she is going to have a big advantage in the clinch. I think she's going to hit takedowns, get on top, and control Denise Gomes on the ground. And I think she'll be able to do it fairly effectively. I've seen Loma, she's training with Weili Zhang, and I see him doing a lot of wrestling, a lot of grappling. And I just feel as if her wrestling and her grappling is underrated. I think it's improved quite a bit. And I feel like in this fight, it's going to come out and she's going to show it. I think she's going to be able to strike a little bit, but I think she's going to take advantage of Gomes' inexperience, her aggressiveness, this being her UFC debut, being very excited. And I think she's going to get some takedowns and get on top and win the fight that way too. So I'm gonna go with Lookboonmee, and I think she's gonna look pretty good here. I still feel like, man, I wish there was an atomweight division and Loma could, be a player in that one. But even at 115, I think now she's 26. She's getting a little bit older. I think that if she can keep leveling up, she could be a threat and, get ranked and things like that. So I still, feel like Gomes will be good too. But I think Loma Lookboonmee is going to show that she's moving more into her prime now. So I'm going to go with Loma Lookboonmee to mix it up and use her grappling, maybe surprise some people with some takedowns and get the win. And this next fight, it's another female fight with Aspen Ladd taking on Sara McMann. And Aspen Ladd, she's in a rough patch in her career. She's lost 2 fights in a row, 3 of her last 4. She's had a myriad of injuries and weight cut issues and botched weight cuts that canceled fights. So it's definitely slowed down her career. Her last fight, she was forced to move up to 145 pounds. Or not her last fight, the fight before her last fight. And she fought Norma Dumont. She lost that fight. She came back down to 35 in her last fight and lost to Raquel Pennington. So she started her UFC career really well, but now she's in a little bit of the danger zone and she loses 4 out of 5 fights. The last time the Aspen Ladd won was in December of 2019, so it's been a long time. And it's put up a shut-up time on Saturday. For Sara McMann, she's one of the longest tenured fighters on the roster at this point for the females. She had her first UFC fight way back at UFC 159 when John Jones fought Chael Sonnen in 2013. And since then, she's been fighting the best of the best. She has a 7-6 record, but 4 of those 6 losses have came against UFC champions. And recently, I would say McMahon's looked just as good as ever. Even though she's 41 years old, she dominated Lena Landsberg. She dominated Carol Hossa. And she did really well against Juliana Pena for 2 rounds before getting caught in a submission in the third. And Sara McMann's a girl who I think put a ton of pressure on herself before fights, and mentally sometimes she could break on fight night. Now being older, I think she's developed a more carefree attitude, and that's actually translating to her being more free and dangerous in the octagon. And she's still around the top of the division, so if she can win 2 fights in a row, it will be the first time she's done it since 2017. I think she'll be pretty close to a title shot, if not maybe the next in line. I still think Irene Aldana's farther ahead than Sara McMann, but McMahon's a little bit older. She's almost 42, and it would be a cool story to see her maybe rematch Amanda Nunes. But yeah, I mean, this is a grappler versus grappler matchup. On the feet, I feel like Sara McMann is the better striker. I think the Aspen Ladd maybe over time could break Sara McMann, like especially if they had a longer fight, like 5 rounds, and it was all stand up, and Ladd was just coming forward and working that, plod forward 1-2 Chad Cook game. But I think Sara is way more explosive, way faster, way more powerful. And she's wild. I mean, she'll throw those heavy 1-2s or jab overhand rights, big uppercuts. And she's a big looper with her shots. She's, way overextends and things like that. But if she connects, she definitely has power. And she's faster and more explosive than Ladd. And Ladd isn't a hard girl to find. So I think Sara McMann could maybe put the pause on her and land some big punches, honestly. I think she could maybe even rock or drop Aspen Ladd. But, yeah, I mean, Aspen Ladd and Sara McMann, both their fights, when they get the win, they're usually through taking girls down and beating them up on the ground. With Sara McMann in her last fight, she really dominated Carol Hossa. I was pretty surprised by that. Didn't slow down at all, which has been something that she's had issues with in the past, getting tired and then getting finished in the later rounds. And she was able to just hit the takedowns, control on top, and just absolutely dominate the fight. With Aspen Ladd, it's going to be interesting because I haven't really seen a fight where girls try to take Aspen Ladd down, control her on top. I don't really know how Aspen Ladd is off of her back. I don't know if she has an active submission game. I don't know if it's hard to hold down. And Aspen Ladd is a girl that's, decent wrestling, but unless she gets Sara McMann real tired, I don't see how she's going to take her down, really. I don't really see her getting a takedown. But, if Aspen Ladd can get on top of Sara McMann, especially as the fight goes late, I think that's where she could potentially get the finish. And she's way younger. She's in a kind of a do-or-die spot. She needs the win here. So it's a big fight. But one thing with Aspen Ladd that you always want to see before the fight is how she looks on the scales. That's something that is going to indicate to me how she's going to look on fight night. If she has a really rough weight cut again, I think it's safe to say I think Sara McMann's probably going to have the better cardio, and Aspen Ladd's not even going to have that advantage. But one thing about Aspen Ladd is she's mean. And if she gets into a finish or into a spot where she could finish, she's a good finisher. And Sara McMann has been finished on the ground several times. So that's what I think makes Aspen Ladd the slight favorite in this fight, along with the age. But I'm going to go with Sara McMann. I just think she's the better athlete. I think she has been putting better performances together recently. And I think she can hit the takedowns, even on a girl like Aspen Ladd, get her to the ground, control her. I think that she can hold her own on the feet and actually do better in the stand-up early in the fight. And I don't see a lot of danger factor on the feet from Ladd. And I don't really know about Ladd having a great submission game or anything like that. Even when she's in top position, she's more of a ground and pounder. So I just feel like Sara McMann is a better fighter than Aspen Ladd is at the same game that they both try to implement. So I'm going to go with Sara McMann here, even though she's a little bit older. And this next fight, this is another interesting matchup to me with Trevin Giles taking on Louis Cosi. And Trevin Giles, he's lost 2 fights in a row, and he was actually in this exact position before. He started his UFC career 2-0, lost 2 fights in a row in 2019, but then was able to bounce back, got 3 victories in a row. So we're going to see if Giles can do the same thing here. I think his more recent losses could be more challenging to overcome because they're knockout losses, whereas the losses before were submission losses. So we have to see if he still has the same chin. And if he does, I think he could potentially go out there and get the job done. He has a lot of advantages in this fight. He has more UFC fights. He has 9. Then Cosi has total fights in his career with 8. And Giles also faced top 15 competition. He has some good wins over guys like Brendan Allen, Ryan Spann, James Krause, Roman DeLeeds. And Louis Cosi is a step down in competition and a chance for Trevin Giles to showcase why he's a long-time veteran in the company. And Trevin Giles is the far more technical fighter. He's long, he's rangy, he has good footwork, he has very good hand speed, he has a nasty jab. He has low volume, but his length and his hand speed allows him to usually control the pace, and he's waiting to land the pull too. Fighters don't want to get touched by Giles either because Giles has some power, and he's a huge fighter for 170. His last fight was his first fight at 170. You do have to wonder if he could take a shot because obviously he got knocked out, but yeah, I mean, if he could kind of work his way into that weight class, I think it'll better suit him. But one thing about Giles is he does, like I said, low volume. Sometimes he can float his chin and kind of hang there after he throws that pull two in the pocket. And that's where guys can maybe slip it and counter him and slip or counter his jab. And you saw his fight with Dricus Du Plessis. He got caught in the pocket with the big counter hook. But Trevin Giles can also wrestle pretty well. He's a fairly good grappler. In this fight, I think if he sees the opportunity to time a takedown and get on top, he should do it. And he's heavy on top. He has good ground and pound. He has gotten tired and shut in on bag takedowns that got him guillotined in the 3rd round of 2 fights. So don't force it, but I think he could potentially get a takedown or 2 in this one. For Louis Cosi, he's trying to follow in his brother's footsteps, getting the win in his 2nd UFC outing. Both Cosi brothers started the UFC careers with a loss, but Orion Cosi, he was able to get the win a little over a month ago at UFC 277. And now it's Cosi's turn to try to get the win. And Cosi was undefeated at 7-0 with 7 first-round finishes before he came to the UFC. But his record is nothing to write home about, as only one of those 7 fighters had a winning record. Cosi blitzed through 6 journeymen, then he fought 11-4 Victor Reina. He was able to knock out Victor Reina early. And that was a good win because Reina isn't an amazing fighter, but he's serviceable. He was able to have a war with Miguel Baeza, and Cosi dispatched him very easily. But he was a huge favorite coming into his fight with Sasha Palatnikov, and he dropped the ball in that one, man. He went for it in the 1st round. He hurt Palatnikov, but Palatnikov survived, and Cosi blew his load trying to finish and got himself out, and then he got himself finished in the 3rd round. And that fight was last November, so it's been a while since Cosi's been in there. He was going to fight Preston Parsons in April, but suffered an injury, and now he's had the time to get better and prep for this fight. And the only fights of Cosi's I've been able to find were his fight with Victor Reina and his fight with Sasha Palatnikov. And Cosi is a cannonball of a fighter. He's super powerful. He has a real nice straight right, real nice left hook. Good job landing on the chin. He's pretty accurate. He also lands heavy. He hits heavy. And his defense is really bad. He stands straight up and down. He's very square. Little to no head movement. Very hittable guy. And when he gets hit, he tends to panic wrestle. But he is dangerous in exchanges. He's very explosive. He isn't a pushover. But he's super green. His last fight, he showed a lot of toughness because he was fighting while extremely exhausted. He was still having moments, but that was the first time he fought more than 4 minutes and 34 seconds in a fight. It was a big learning lesson for him, and if he learned from it, I think Kosi could come back stronger. Grappling wise, I haven't really seen much at all from Kosi. I know he's strong. I know he's at least a good amateur wrestler, but in MMA, I haven't seen his wrestling. He got stuffed shooting bad takedowns with no setup against Polanikov, but at that point, he was already very tired. And he actually ended up getting finished with punches while on his knees after failing a takedown. But Kosi really explodes and overextends on almost all his punches. So opponents who want to take him down, I feel like, will definitely be able to duck under and get him down. He got taken down a couple of times by Sasha Polanikov, who's not known as a great grappler. But Kosi is strong. I do imagine he's going to be very hard to hold down, especially early. And he's a couple guillotine wins, so I feel like looking for that guillotine may be something to do against Giles because he has fallen victim to it 3 times. And I don't really think in this fight wrestling and grappling will be a big option for Kosi. Giles is the bigger man and more experienced in that realm, and I think Kosi's going to have to try to find the knockout. But it's a good fight for Kosi, if I'm being honest. I mean, there's not a lot of fights where I feel like he can compete in the UFC, but he is far behind a fighter like Trevin Giles on paper, but the way he wins is by exploding and finding that chin early, and he's pretty good at it too. Giles has been slept twice in a row, so if Kosi can touch that chin and knock Giles out in the first round, that'll give him some hype and a lot of confidence. And make no mistake about it, though, I mean, this is definitely a hard matchup. It's a step up from Sasha Polanikov, and I feel like Trevin Jones is far superior, but Kosi, in my opinion, is going to have more will to win. Giles already had 10 UFC fights, and I don't think he probably hurt himself as hard or is willing to go through as much as Kosi will. Giles has been known to slow down and have mental lapses during his fights, and I think that he just can't take Kosi for granted. He has to be locked in. He has to be sharp. I see his fight playing out primarily on the feet, and I think Giles is a superior grappler too. If Kosi tries to shoot in on him, I see Giles being able to reverse, get on top. And my pick is going to be Trevin Giles by decision. I think Kosi is going to show up super tough. Maybe give Giles a scare by landing some big shots early. But I think the experience gap, the technique gap is too much. Giles is a tough matchup for Kosi with the length, the jab, the effective counter punching. The only thing that I'm worried about is the cardio factor for Giles. I also am worried about the chin. So if he can, prove to me that he has good cardio at 170 and could take a shot, then maybe we could look back on him and be more willing to pick him and bet on him in future fights. But right now, he starts to show it to me. But as a pick, I am going to pick Trevin Giles. In this next fight, this is a grappler's delight type of fight here between 2 unsung fighters in the featherweight division. Both these guys are on some of the best runs of their career. Damon Jackson, he is an OG. He's been in the MMA game since 2009. Made it to UFC in 2014, but it was a little bit too early. He washed out after just 3 fights for the company. He didn't get discouraged, though. He went and won 8 of his next 10 fights. He came back to the UFC in 2020, and since then he's done well. He's been able to be on the brink of being a top 15 fighter at this point. He got a come-from-behind submission over Mirsad Bektic. He was able to get another couple good wins in there, and he's actually on a 3-fight win streak currently. For his opponent, Pat Sabatini, is 17-3, coming out of Renzo Gracie Fili, who are just dominating the UFC right now. And Sabatini did not have that instant success Damon Jackson did in MMA. He actually went pro before Damon Jackson did or went amateur before Damon Jackson in 2009 as well. But he didn't get in the UFC until 2020-21. And yeah, man. So even though it feels like Damon Jackson is the veteran in this fight, Sabatini's been grinding for just as long. And Sabatini joined the UFC in April 2021, and since then he's gone 4-0 in 4 fights and won 6 fights in a row. He hasn't lost in almost 3 years. For Sabatini on the feet, he's an okay striker. He's short, compact, he's fast, shifty, light on his feet. He can bounce in and out, but usually he's pressuring. He, off the back foot is not that good and will only look to land counter lead hooks. When he's pressuring, he's decent. He has power in his hands. He has some nice front kicks, round kicks. He hurt TJ Laramie with a big body kick, and he'll throw some nice hook or overhand combinations and level change right off him. And predominantly, Sabatini's just looking to throw a heavy power combination to get inside, try to grab his opponent. If fighters can keep fights standing with Sabatini, they definitely are going to have a big advantage most of the time. Sabatini got dropped against Jamal Emmers, but his striking is dangerous and competent enough. He switches stances, he has power. Fighters have to respect the level changes, and he's able to kind of shift in there and land some big punches. But Sabatini is an elite grappler. His wrestling may not be top notch, but He has the ability to pull guard and submit or sweep off of his back. His pace is relentless, and he's going to shoot in 10, 15 times if he has to get the takedown. And once he gets fighters tired, the takedowns come easier. He can start to implement his game, and most of his takedowns come from using the single leg to push punch to the cage and then getting them down in the clinch. He's a beast in top position, and even though he can be submission over position at times, he's a ton of submission finishes. 11 of his 17 wins are submissions. His last fight, he did a good job of getting to the back and staying stuck like glue in there. He was able to, get that wrestling ride going. He was able to eventually get full back and get the hooks in too, and just grinded Laramie out. And Sabatini, due to his propensity to accept bottom position and try to sweep or submit, has lost to some grapplers. He lost to Robert Watley, he lost to Jose Mariscal, but Sabatini has really good leg locks and really good sweeps and things that he does off his back. So he has a lot of faith that he could end up on top. In this fight with Damon Jackson, I feel like he shouldn't really look to be on bottom in this fight. I don't think that's a smart place to be. But Sabatini has the cardio edge. It's phenomenal. And I think he should try to push a really high pace in this one, shoot a lot of takedowns, pressure, get in Jackson's face, and try to make it a dogfight. But Damon Jackson's a veteran. He's a dangerous man. He goes for the kill. He has skills to finish from anywhere. And on the feet, he's a little stiff, but he's long. He has good 1-2s, 1-1-2s, pushes fighters back with some front kicks, and then likes to clinch him against the fence and bring him to his world. And he's strong for the weight. He has good clinch takedowns. On the ground, he's very sticky when he gets on top. Really good control, excellent submissions. Takedown defense-wise, I feel like Jackson's takedown defense could be better. Most opponents do not want to bring him to the ground, so he doesn't have to worry about it. So he stands real tall. He'll pressure forward in straight lines. But Mirsad Bektik was getting him down super easy before gassing out. In his last fight, though, he did do a good job reversing the takedowns against Daniel Argueta. He was able to kind of create scrambles and take the back off the takedown attempts. And Sabatini's another shorter, compact guy like Argueta, so I feel like Jackson's going to be looking to do the same thing. He's going to be looking to pressure, get Sabatini to shoot on him, create a scramble, and get on top. And Jackson did a good job of that, but he did get a little bit tired in that fight. And against a fighter that's bigger and pushes a higher pace like Sabatini, I think that Jackson needs to have his cardio more on point. I don't really see either fighter being able to submit each other. They're both great grapplers, so I think it's going to go the full distance. On the feet, I favor Sabatini by a slight margin. Jackson could give him issues with the length, but Sabatini's a speed and power edge, and I also think he could land some body shots and hurt Jackson. And I think Sabatini has to be aware of those shots at the middle, the knees, the front kicks, the straight punches. But I think his speed and explosiveness is going to give him that slight edge on the feet there. And I also think he's the better wrestler. I think he can be the one who dictates where the fight goes. As long as he doesn't shoot bad takedowns and allow Jackson to get on top, then I think he'll be winning in the grappling. Whoever gets on top is probably going to be the fighter to win the round, I think. I think this fight goes to decision unless Jackson gasses really hard. Sabatini does push a high pace, so I wouldn't be super shocked to see a third round finish, but I think more than likely I'm going to go with Sabatini by decision. I just think he's going to be a little bit better on the feet, be a little bit better wrestler, and kind of edge this fight out. And this next fight, this is a close fight. This is one of the more difficult fights to call, in my opinion, on the card. And we have Anthony Hernandez, who's an amazing fighter to watch. If you want to see an action fight, sit down and watch an Anthony Hernandez fight. He debuted in UFC in 2019. He had a really fun back-and-forth fight before, getting submitted against Marcus Perez. Then he bounced back with an amazing fight against Jun Young Park. He submitted Park with the same submission that he was submitted against when he lost to Marcus Perez. And then after that, he had a really bad performance. He got finished in 39 seconds against Kevin Holland. But he took almost a year off and then came back and was a big underdog against Adolfo Vieira. We all remember how that fight ended with Anthony Hernandez submitting Vieira in one of the most shocking results in MMA history. Then Hernandez followed that up with a decision win in a war against Josh Fremd. And Hernandez has won 2 fights in a row, so it's going to be a big fight for him to potentially move into some more high-profile fights with a win. For Marc-Andre Barriault, he's been streaking himself recently. He's won 3 of his last 4 fights, really 4 of his last 5. And he's coming off a first-round submission victory. He had a rough start to the UFC. He went 0-3 in his first 3 UFC fights, but UFC stuck by him. And even after failing his drug test in his 4th UFC fight, he stayed around and he got rewarded, or the UFC got rewarded for their loyalty, because he's since came back on 2 finishes in his last 3 wins, won 3 of his last 4. And the fighters that Marc-Andre has defeated in the UFC are much different fighters than Nathan Hernandez. Barriault, he has great cardio. He thrives in a dogfight. And he's beaten fighters like Jordan Wright, Dauchalungi Mbula, Abu Azaitar, guys who are super explosive, dangerous early, but slow down. Alex Hernandez is the exact opposite of that. He's only going to get better as the fight goes on. He has great cardio and toughness. Marc-Andre Barriault, he did get knocked out in 16 seconds in his last loss, but throughout his career, he's been very, very durable, hard to finish. And his loss to the UFC came against pretty good competition. So I feel like both these guys have been tested. Both produce fun fights, and it's a fun fight on paper. You know, good matchmaking, and the winner of this fight, I think, does deserve a step up in competition. On the feet, I think it's competitive. I think Hernandez is a little bit more dynamic, a little bit faster, a little longer, but Marc-Andre Barriault with that effective pressure, I think will maybe get a little bit better of the striking road, but I think that the wrestling is going to be where Hernandez gets the win. I think he's going to be able to mix in some takedowns, get on top of Marc-Andre Barriault, who showed a little bit subpar takedown defense, and I think he'll be able to control on top and do well. I don't know if he'll be able to submit a guy like Barriault, who's very good defensively on the ground, but I think he can control him and win the fight that way. If he can't get the takedowns, then I think Barriault is a very live underdog, but I've seen Barriault get taken down by lesser opponents, I believe, than Hernandez, and I think Hernandez is going to be able to mix in those takedowns and get the win that way, just like he did against Josh Fremd. So I'm going to go with Anthony Hernandez to extend that winning streak to 3 wins in a row. And this next fight, we got a fight that I'm not super interested in from a betting perspective, but it's a heavyweight fight. Tanner Boser taking on Rodrigo Nascimento. And Nascimento is coming back after his suspension from USADA, where he won his last fight against Alain Boudot, but failed his drug test. And for Tanner Boser, he hasn't fought in a while either. His last win came against Owen St. Preux, which was a pretty big victory for him, but obviously OSP is not a natural heavyweight. Before that, Boser had lost 2 fights in a row where they've been really close fights. And, you know, Boser at one point kind of broke into the rankings. He had a little bit of momentum. He had those knockout wins, but he is a little bit kind of lacking now with his name value. And I think he needs to get more out there, get a big win again. If he can get a knockout over Nascimento with the finish over OSP, then I think he'll get back into top 15 competition. But Nascimento, he hasn't really proven too much yet in his career. He has went in there and took out a guy like Donto Mace pretty easily. He was able to get another win in his UFC debut where he got a nice submission win. And then he got knocked out by Chris Daukaus in less than a minute. His last fight, he got hurt pretty bad on the feet against Alain Boudot, but was able to survive and then end up getting the finish himself. So one thing about Rodrigo Nascimento that I do like, he's young. He's trained at an American top team. He looks dedicated. He has a good ground game, but on the feet, he needs a lot of work. He has that pure Muay Thai style, but he's very plotty, comes forward, no head movement, and extremely hittable guy. He does throw some nice 1-2s, some good leg kicks, some good body kicks, and he'll let it go and throw some shots himself. But I feel like Boser in this fight, he's seen this style of fighter before, pressure fighter that wants to crash into a clinch and get the takedown. Nascimento is really good on the ground, but his wrestling is not really that good. I think Boser, who has subpar takedown defense, but I think he could defend the takedowns of Nascimento more than likely. Nascimento is a big guy, so that could play a factor, but if Boser can keep it on the feet and stay out of that clinch, don't just get held against a cage, I think that he is a superior striker. He has decent footwork, nice leg kicks, which I think are going to be very readily available for him in this fight. And I think also, just his 1-2s, his hand speed, being a crafty striker with solid movement is going to, do well for him here. And I just feel like Boser will probably chop the leg and then land a big shot and knock Nascimento out. I think he's a little bit more experienced and just a little bit too good for Nascimento at this point. But Boser, he hasn't fought in a while. Nascimento's a big guy. I do think if he gets to the ground, he has a chance of getting the finish. So Nascimento's a live underdog, but I think Tanner Boser is the rightful favorite, and I'm going to pick him to win via second round knockout. And this next fight, I think this is a build-up fight for Joe Pyfer. I think the UFC likes what they saw in the Contender Series. We got another guy that is coming out of that Renzo Gracie Fili camp, which has just been dominating the UFC. And Pyfer, he has a heavy grappling style, very physical, super built, strong for the division. And he's improving his striking. He's a bit stiff, but he's always been aggressive, press forward, and through heavy. He has good 1-2s, 3-2s. He's big for the weight. He has a long reach. He has big power in his punches. In his last fight, he took his opponent out with a disgusting counter hook, and he's done that in multiple fights. He has pretty good body kicks. He has, power in both hands. He can knock you out with one shot. Super intense, and he's willing to brawl, but he's never been finished by strikes. He's young and durable, and super strong, good wrestler. Or pressure fighters to the cage. Hit big double leg slams. Get big body lock takedowns. When he gets on top, he has great control. He'll wear on guys until he can finish the fight. He has big ground and pound. He has questionable cardio. I watched a fight a while back against Jonathan Patti where he really slowed down after the first round. Ended up getting backed up with big shots and finished. But, I feel like with him now joining the UFC, it seemed like after the Contender Series, he was super pumped and had his life in the right direction, was really dedicated. I think he's going to have better cardio, and I think he's going to be a problem for a lot of guys in this weight. And Alen Amedovski, I don't think is going to be able to stop him. He's almost 35 years old, and I feel like Amedovski is one of the lower level guys in the UFC. And Amedovski, I mean, he's just a pure brawler, man. He's extremely aggressive. He swings for the fences. He has a 12-second knockout win on his record with a jab, right hook, left hook combo. His left hook is nasty. He'll also throw a real nice pull two, good 1-2. His overhand right, he has big power with it. And he's finished all 8 of his wins by knockout, but since joining the UFC, I mean, he's been exposed to having very bad grappling and taken down very easily, dominated on the ground against Krzysztof Jotko. Then he got knocked out brutally in, trying to brawl with a beast brawler like John Phillips in less than, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And then his last fight, he got hurt and then got submitted in less than 2 minutes. So he hasn't proven anything yet in the UFC. He's gotten dominated in all of his fights. He is... coming back for another chance. He's trained out of Extreme Couture, and, let's see if he can put something together. I mean, he always has a chance with the power that he has, but I think Pyfer is way better on the feet, way better on the ground. I think he can knock him out. I think he can take him down and ground and pound him or submit him, and since Pyfer's fight to lose, and I think he's going to get the first shot finish in this one, and I think he's going to go out there, probably catch a hook knockout, and, go home with some checks. And in the feature fight on the main card, we got Andre Fili taking on Bill Algeo. And Andre Fili has been an action fighter in the UFC for years. Even though he's only 32 years old, he's taken a lot of damage. His last fight, he got knocked out in 41 seconds. So this is a huge fight for him in terms of how his career is going to go moving forward. He hasn't won a fight in over 2 years. And he did a great job against Daniel Pineda in June of 2021. But an accidental eye poke turned that likely win into a no contest. The last time that Fili got an official win was June 13th, 2020. He beat Charles Jourdain by split decision that night. He's only gotten 1 win in his last 5 fights, so this is definitely a must-win for him. And for Fili, he's an excellent striker, tall, long, lanky, dangerous counter puncher, counter left hook, counter rear cross, good left hook head kick or jab head kick combinations. He does a good job pressuring, feigning, staying long. And sometimes when Fili goes first, he can load up on his shots. That's where he can get countered. His chin is going a little bit too, if you ask me. He got dropped by Charles Jourdain. He got knocked out in his last fight. But he's a slick guy who wants to keep it long, technical in this fight. And for Bill Algeo, he's starting to find his footing in the UFC a little bit. He won his last 2 fights in a row. And, he's won 3 of his last 4. He's super tough. He had a really hard debut in the UFC. He had to fight Ricardo Loma. She's a legend. Dropped a competitive decision in that fight. Then he also had another fight where he lost to Ricardo Ramos. She's a good fighter out of Brazil. And he has some solid wins over some explosive guys like Spike Carlisle and Joanderson Brito. His last fight, he took out Herbert Burns. And Bill Algeo, he has more of a style, kind of a funky striking style where he throws a lot of weird combinations, a lot of kicks, a lot of front knees, some nice straight shots, and he relies a lot on his footwork and his length. In this fight, he's actually going to have the reach disadvantage. And I feel like the way that Algeo strikes, he leaves a lot of opportunities to counterpunch. We saw that in his fight with Brendan Loughnane. And I think Fili could have a lot of success counterpunching in this fight. As far as the grappling goes, I think that Fili would be smart to mix in some takedowns. He's a really good timing on his double leg and underrated wrestler, in my opinion. I don't think you'll be able to control Bill Algeo, Bill Algeo is a guy that has really, really good scrambling ability, really hard to take down. And when you get him against wrestlers that have bad cardio, I mean, he could kind of just scramble, work back up to his feet, get him tired, and then start outclassing him on the feet with this kind of unorthodox striking. But I think Andre Fili in this fight should win rather easily, honestly. Bill Algeo is a guy who leaves a lot of openings for counter punches. He isn't a knockout artist, so I don't think Fili has to be too worried about getting clipped with a big shot, so he could stay in the pocket. And I think if he has the reach advantage, he's going to be able to pressure, land kicks, left hooks, crosses. I think if Algeo starts to get more aggressive or starts to be successful throwing a lot of kicks, then Fili could time the takedowns. I think Fili's the better wrestler. I think he gets get some cage control time. And like I said, Brendan Loughnan's a fighter who I feel is similar to Fili. And it was a while back, but Algeo struggled mightily with him, got dominated. And Algeo tends to win a lot of fights by being able to keep the same pace for 3 rounds, taking advantage of his opponent slowing down. I don't see Fili getting tired, and I just think he's the better all-around fighter. I think he has better striking, better wrestling, and I think he's going to get the job done in this one. And in the co-main event here, we got a fight that should be all action with Chidi and Njokuani taking on Gregory Rodrigues. This is going to be at the middleweight division. And yeah, I'm interested in this fight for sure. I mean, Chidi and Njokuani, he may have got to the UFC a little late in his career, but quickly making up for lost time. He's won both of his UFC fights so far by first round knockout. Pretty close to breaking into the rankings. He's 22-7, has a lot of high-level experience in Bellator, and in the UFC, he's not been tested super highly yet, but he has beaten some UFC veterans outside the UFC, and he has a really hard fight in front of him here with Gregory Rodrigues. A win will put him in a position to potentially be fighting top 15 level fighters next, but Gregory Rodrigues has been an absolute force in joining the UFC. He's 4-1 in his 5 fights, and I feel he should have won the one split decision he lost. His last fight, he looked incredible. He buzzsawed through Julian Marquez. He's a super tough, durable fighter that most fighters do not buzzsaw through. And Rodrigues looked as if he has the skills and ability to fight top guys in the weight. He just has to win, and then maybe one other guy he could beat before he gets a chance to test himself, and maybe he gets a top 10 fighter. He has a lot of good middleweights to train with at Kill Cliff FC, so he probably knows where he stacks up. I'm sure he's fairly confident. And yeah, man, I mean, with this fight, we got Chidi, who's a real long striker. He is a beast. I mean, super great feints, stance switching, real nice kicks. He tends to start to attack low, like leg kicks, body kicks, and then when he starts to get fighters biting on those kicks low, he goes high with head kicks, and he has nice counter crosses, good speed, good power. He's constantly switching stances, and he can throw kicks from both stances. So, yeah, man, I feel like he's a very effective striker, but I think he has a questionable chin, I believe. I've seen him knocked out in 3 different fights, and when guys close the distance and can make it more of a muddy, ugly fight, he has a good clinch game, but I think he kind of leaves his chin available to be hit in the pocket, and he isn't the best in a war. And for Gregory Rodrigues, he's going to want to make it just that. He's going to want to be all the way in or be all the way out, because I do believe even though he has the slower hands, I think he probably has the faster feet. He can close the distance a little bit better. And if he could be all the way out and then close the distance, get inside, and explode in with some of those power 3-2s, 2-3s, 1-2 combinations that he likes to throw, I think he can get the better of the boxing realm. And I also feel like grappling-wise, I think Rodrigues could hit some takedowns in this fight. We've seen Chidi and Njokuani get taken down, get tired, get held against the cage. One thing about Njokuani you can't sleep on is he has a really good clinch game, real good knees, good elbows in the clinch. And he's going to have a chance to catch Rodrigues as he's coming in. He's going to be the sniper, looking to touch Rodrigues with the front kicks, touch him low, and then eventually open up that big kill shot to the head, or just land that shot early like he did against Marc-Andre Barriault. But Gregory Rodrigues, even though he did get finished against Jordan Williams, I don't know, that must have just been a bad night for him, bad weight cut, something went wrong, because he's been able to take a lot of punishment, come back and win fights, and really proved, in my opinion, that he's a very good fighter. I think that in this fight, he's going to be able to use effective pressure, close that distance, get Chidi in the clinch, get him tired, eventually get him down, and then start to have success in the feud with his boxing as well. There is a chance that Chidi could snipe him from the outside with a cross, or hurt him to the head with a head kick, or a body kick to the body, hurt him to the body. But I feel like Rodrigues is going to be smart in the way he closes the distance, and I think he'll be able to get inside and make it ugly, use the clinch, get a couple takedowns, and I'm going to go with Gregory Rodrigues to win this fight. I'm going to actually say that he wins by finish, too. I'll say he wins by second round TKO. And in the main event, we got an awesome fight, man. We got Cory Sandhagen. He's going to be making his return. He's lost 2 fights in a row, but he's already established himself as one of the best bantamweights in the world. And he's going to be taking on Yadong Song, who I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit here because even before he made his UFC debut, I was telling people on the channel, you go back and watch, I think he's going to be a future UFC contender, maybe even a future UFC champion. And you see him talking about, I'm going to beat Cory Sandhagen and then fight for the title. So he's right there. He's only 24 years old. And yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting fight. I mean, Cory Sandhagen, he's the favorite in this one, but he has lost 2 in a row. He got finished in, or actually he didn't get finished. That fight with Algeo, he got finished. That was before, but he lost to TJ Dillashaw in that controversial split decision. And then he dropped a decision to Petr Yan, which was a short notice 5-round fight for the title in Abu Dhabi. So I don't think you can get him too much slack for that one. But Yadong Song, he's been streaking. He's the guy that's going to be coming in here with the momentum. He's won 3 fights in a row, coming off 2 knockout wins over some real credentialed guys in Julio Arce and Marlon Moraes. But this is a big step up in competition for Yadong Song. Yadong, he does have some big wins. I mean, he did beat Marlon Chito Vera. So he has some big wins on his record, but I do think Cory Sandhagen is that next level fighter that he's going to have to beat to prove that he can compete in that top 5. And both these guys are strikers, but they go about it in a way different way. I mean, Cory Sandhagen, much more of a slick guy. He's on his movement, really good footwork. He can switch stances, stays long, and he's an excellent pressure fighter. I mean, you'd think Cory Sandhagen, like when some people think about him, they think he's moving a lot and kind of on the outside, which he is, but he's constantly going forward, pressuring, really effective pressure, really good feints. He controls that distance extremely well. And he's fought guys like Yadong Song, like a John Lineker. He fought Marlon Moraes. Even in his last fight with Petr Yan, he's getting guys that are walking him down or that are trying to put pressure on him and land big punches, which is what Yadong Song is going to be trying to do. And Sandhagen is just so good at, he can get guys that want to pressure him moving backwards because he has so many weapons. He's long, he's super fast, and you can just pressure and move in and out, feint. And with he has so many weapons that he goes to. I mean, real nice kicks. He changes up the variation of his target, goes body head, and just great speed and cardio. And for Yadong Song, he's much more of an exploder. He's a guy that wants to kind of walk you down, try to back you up, and then close the distance with a big combination. His right hand is a missile. I mean, super accurate, super heavy, super fast. And when he explodes with those 3-4 punch combos, there's not many guys in the division that generate as much power as Yadong Song. And Yadong Song also has an amazing chin. He has great cardio. He's not going to slow down. And he's going to keep that pressure on you, stay dangerous, and have that power throughout the entire fight. With Cory Sandhagen, we did see him get a little bit tired in his last fight. But once again, that was a short notice fight against Petr Yan, who's one of the best guys at cutting the cage off and, working his hands. And he was able to drop Cory at certain points. But Cory Sandhagen, to me, has shown that he has an amazing chin. I mean, he's taken big shots against John Lineker. He took those shots against Petr Yan, bounced right back up to his feet, was, nonetheless for wear. And I feel like his experience is a lot higher than Yadong Song's at this point. Yadong is only 24. He has fought some good fighters, but he hasn't been in there and mixed it with that top 5 upper echelon. And Cory Sandhagen has done that. And Sandhagen, he's taken off a lot of time, almost a year off. He's worked on his skills and improved. He's only 30 years old, and I think Sandhagen's one of these guys that's a very dedicated fighter to the sport. And I just feel like the speed, the cardio, and the footwork is going to be on display here. I think he's going to be touching Yadong with jabs, with check hooks, with some body shots, with front kicks, and he's just going to be angling off and not letting Yadong Song back him up and put those big combinations on him. I also think Sandhagen might surprise people in this one because he said he's been working a lot on his weaknesses. One thing about Yadong Song, he's constantly pressuring forward. He overextends on his punches. And in this fight, I don't think he's going to be expecting someone to wrestle. And I think Cory Sandhagen, like he did against John Lineker, he could mix in a couple takedowns, get on top, and use that grappling where I feel like he does have an advantage in the grappling too. So I think the wrestling is going to play a factor in this fight for Cory Sandhagen. And I think that as long as he's been doing what he's preaching and really putting in that work, I think he'll have the faith to go to it, work that wrestling, hit a couple takedowns, slow down the pressure of Yadong Song, and I think that'll be a big, big thing in him winning the fight. But mainly, I think it's going to be the speed, the cardio, and the footwork. I think that he's going to come in with his cardio on point. He's going to have his speed, his technique on display with the striking. He's going to be working a lot of jabs, a lot of shots that are going to detour Yadong Song coming forward, front kicks to the middle, straight shots, straight punches. And I think Yadong Song's going to struggle to touch him, much like his fight with Kyler Phillips. And I think that Cory Sandhagen is going to mix in some takedowns too. I think he can mix them in and win a decision in this one. I think Yadong Song's a motherfucker. He's a super hard guy to get out of there. And I think that he's going to keep his power cardio for 5 rounds. So Sandhagen's going to be in there with the real dog. He's going to be in there with someone that's going to test him. But I think Sandhagen is proven more at this point. He's the higher level guy. And I think that, his length, his speed, his cardio, the wrestling, if he does show it off, all could lead to him helping him get the win. For Song, I think he's going to have to knock Sandhagen out. And Sandhagen has proven to have a really good chin. So I think it's going to be tough to do. And I just think he's not going to be able to keep up technique-wise. I still see Yadong Song as a future champ, potentially. He's only 24, and I think he's going to continue to improve. But I'm going to go with the Sandman, Cory Sandhagen, in this one to win a decision. So there you have it, guys. That's the full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Sandhagen vs. Song. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like I said at the top of the video, make sure to check out the Patreon for the bets. I have 6 bets for this card. I'm about to put another bet on actually now, so it's going to be 7. And I might have a couple bets for LFA, and I'm going to be looking into next week for Dana White Contender Series, for Bellator, and all that. So definitely recommend you go over to the Patreon and make some money. I'm up over 85 units for the year so far. And besides that, just hit the like button on this video. I'd really appreciate it if we got over 150 likes. That'd be amazing. Put down below what you think about my picks. Comment down below. I'm always interested in your guys' opinion and want to get the dialogue going below the video. But besides that, for my most confident pick on the card, I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer. And for my part of the week, it's going to be Joe Pyfer and Cory Sandhagen. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back next week. And besides that, I'll talk to you guys later.